Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome for tuning in to the Shop Talk from O'Brien Guitars. I think this is what, number 14 now, Adriana, do you remember?
14, yes.
Shop Talk 14. And I appreciate everybody joining in on this Saturday afternoon. We've got about a 20 or 30 second delay. I just saw myself come up here on my iPad. So this is kind of weird, talking to myself, watching myself on the camera, and then 30 seconds later it shows up on my iPad. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And there are a lot of us that have tuned in here today. Let's see, we've got, holy cow, look how many people we got, Adriana. It looks like, what, 44 people? Jonatas Luceria de Pobre down there in Brazil. Welcome aboard, Jonatas. Gary from Flagstaff. Adriana's here. Hey, Adriana, how you doing?
Hey, good.
For those that don't know Adriana, that's my better half there, the girl from Ipanema. In fact, I've got her on one of the cameras. Let me see if I can wave your hands over there, Adriana.
Hi.
Camera number 3 is way the heck over there, but wave your hands again. You can.
Can you see me? Can you see me now?
All right. So Adriana's over here behind the camera, and she is helping me run the chat group. Let's see who else we've got here. Ricardo, also from Brazil. Hola. Tony. Mo from the UK is here again. Alfred, I don't know where you're from, but welcome aboard. Christian, greetings from Nevada City, California. Alejandro, I don't know where you're from, but welcome. John Davis from Iowa, windy and warm, it says. Yeah, we're about 82 degrees here in Colorado today. It's just a beautiful day outside. I should have put a camera outside so you guys can see what's going on out there too. Corey from Appleton, Wisconsin. Jeremy, also from Denver. Elaine, hey Elaine, how you doing down there in Tennessee? Good to see you. Glad you could come in here. Acoustic Coyote, also from Iowa. My gosh, look at all these people. John Larson, Morning Campers. Richard from San Diego. Jeff from Oregon. Bruce Jones. Oh, let's see, everything just jumped here. Oh, Bruce is up there in Calgary. Welcome aboard. Chuck. Sicily, Italy. Man, it is late over there, but HR Guitars, welcome aboard. Ciao, bello. And Adriana, let's see, Matt, Ken S. from Edmonton, Alberta, Johnny from Norway, Alejandro's from Gilbert, Arizona, okay, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Moreira Filho from Fortaleza, Brazil, John Davis, 88 degrees, wow. Greece, all the way from Greece, my God. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in just to listen to little old me here in my basement broadcast to the world. I've got a bunch of stuff, information I'm going to send out here today. I hope you're going to find all this useful. I think you will. I'm firing on all cylinders. Had a good cup of coffee before we got going here. Compliments of the girl from Ipanema. She brought me a cup of coffee here. Oh. And I've got all 4 cameras running today. Here, this is camera number 1. Camera number 2, you're now seeing my hands down here, and that's for if I need to do any close-up work there. Camera 3, and then you want to hit camera number 4 here in just a second when I tell you. So camera 3 is way the heck over here across the shop. Hello everybody watching camera number 3, and then camera 4, then if you'll hit camera number 4 there, is way the heck down here at the other end of the shop here. That shows my complete bench. So I've got all 4 cameras on today, and that allows you to see everything I'm doing in the shop. So if you've ever taken one of my virtual classes, then you know that every corner of the shop is documented. You can see all the dust in every corner. So nowhere to hide here in the shop. If you folks have any questions throughout the stream here, go ahead and put them in the chat box here. That's the only way I have to communicate with you through the YouTube live streams here. And my wife, also known as Miss Brazil, is behind the camera here. She's going to help me. If anything slips through, she'll feed me some questions and stuff. Mateus from Brazil, welcome aboard. Virginia, oh, that's Chris down there in Virginia. How you doing, Chris? Michigan, Winnipeg, another one from Winnipeg, Canada. Germany, Australia. My God, Luthier Steve from Denver. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. And once again, thanks for tuning in. The purpose of these live talks is for me to blow off steam. No, I'm kidding. The purpose is for you guys to have access to me and, exchange a little bit of information. Because I think the more information we exchange, the better it is for everybody. It's like the tide. The higher the tide, everybody surfs. So I like to exchange information. Been doing it for 20 years with all of my students, and I think everybody benefits from it. I've got a few announcements. First of all, we're going to be doing a giveaway today. We've done this most all our streams, haven't we, Adriana?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we're going to be doing a giveaway, and I think we're going to give away one of my steel string voicing online courses. That's available on my website, and I think we should go ahead and just give that away today. However, to be eligible for the giveaway, you have to click on that little link. Cesar Tessarini, he's my web developer. He's all the way down there in Cerquillo in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. He is helping me behind the scenes here as well, keep this thing up and running. But you have to click on that link that's pinned in the top of the chat box there. Click on that link, and then you have to put in, I believe it's your name and your email address just so we can contact you. You also have to be present to win. In other words, you got to be on the stream. So here, when we get close to finishing the stream, we'll go ahead and close it out since there's a delay down there in Brazil. We'll give him a minute or two to get all his ducks in a row. And he's got a little program that he's written, and he'll click it. It assigns everybody's name a number. It's randomly drawn, and we'll get to see him do that live. I'll call him up on my cell phone, and we'll put it on camera here. So you guys have to be present to win, and you'll be able to see us give away one of the online steel string voicing courses. What do you think? Is that a good idea, Adriana?
Yep.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Finally,
It's hard to hear you there and here at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
I'm listening to
Yeah, she's got about a 30-second delay. So I talked to her, and then 30 minutes or 30 seconds later, she hears the question. So, all right, keep an eye on the chat box there. Oh, there's Jorge down in Brazil. Is pão de queijo? We don't have any pão de queijo today, Jorge. Let's see, Ontario, Canada. Oh, Canada's well represented here today. Tasmania. Oh my gosh. Cesar says hello. He's the developer down there in Brazil. Some of you have communicated with him before. If you have any problems, technical issues with the online site or courses or something, that's who you usually talk to. I've got an announcement to make today, and I'm very proud of this announcement. I've been wanting to do this for a number of years, and I was finally able to do it. Started working on it last year, and we just launched it today. And that is an inlay course. And I had to find somebody that every time I do these online courses, I try and find somebody that I want to work with that is outstanding in their field. And I don't think I could have gone higher up the ladder than with Larry Robinson. Larry Robinson's been doing inlay work on a daily basis for some of the world's most renowned luthiers and most prestigious guitars for over 46 years. And we started filming last year, did all of the editing process, and Cesar down there in Brazil did all the behind the scenes technical issue. It is now available. I'm going to even show it to you on my website here. Let's see. There it is right there. And if you look at the website, just go to the website, o'brienguitars.com, and then click on online courses. And I've still got this delay here. It hasn't shown up on my iPad yet. It should show up here in just a second. But there it goes. If you go to the website and click on online courses, then click on Larry Robinson's inlay courses. The very first one has a little banner that says now available. You can see some of the pictures there on the right hand side, some of the work that Larry does. I mean, his work is just fantastic. It's very, very well done. He's refined and developed these techniques, like I said, over 46 years. He has books on the subject, has DVDs, and now he has an online course. And he told me just the other day when we were getting ready to launch this, he says, Robbie, this is it. This is the culmination of a lifetime, a career of developing and refining techniques. There's stuff that appears in this course that does not appear in his DVDs from the 90s.
I don't know if it's just me or everybody, but it's I have that little thing. Was it just me?
I think it's just you, because if you guys tell me if you have a buffering issue or a mic issue or something, let me know, because I have no way of knowing unless somebody says something. Anyway, where was I? Larry's been doing this for over 46 years, and he told me, he says, Robbie, he says, this is it. This is my legacy. This is the culmination of my whole career. There's stuff that appears in this online video course that does not appear in his DVDs that he put out in the 90s, also a book that he put out in the 90s. So he's updated some of his techniques, and he's included more information and more content. So if you are interested in doing inlay work at a very high level, then this is the course. If you go out to the website, o'brienguitars.com, you'll see that there's some sample videos there. Basically, those are just the intro lessons for each course. Courses are divided into 3 parts: basic, intermediate, and advanced. And if you If you get on there and click one of those videos, you can see the intro to each one. It kind of gives a little introduction to what each one is about. We start off with the basic course is, you know, how to select your materials, the tools involved, how to design, how to cut, how to inlay it, and then it just each course, the intermediate goes up and does, you know, partial fretboard, peg head, and more complex, and then the advancement goes up to a full vine type, very complex inlay on the fretboard, peg head, bridge, and even a rosette. So I'm very proud of this one. I know Larry is too. And if you buy all three parts, basic, intermediate, and advanced, there's a significant discount than just buying the three parts separate, which you can do. But if you want to get the discount, then buy all three parts. There we go.
There's a question from Alfred Chu.
I did not. I've gotten out of the chat box. You want to feed that question to me?
So excited about the inlay course.
Mm-hmm.
Great to see it's finally out. And just to ask, will there be a discount code for early purchases?
No, there's no discount code on this course. The discount is if you purchase all three of them at the same time. Now that we've launched the course, if you add it all up and then see the promo price, there's a significant discount if you just go ahead and buy all three parts. So that's the promo on this course. Thank you, Adriana, for doing that. And let me see if I can get back here to my stream. There we are. I'm back. Okay. Also, recently, here, this is, you know, a couple more announcements before we get into the voicing aspect here, which is I want to have a nice discussion on voicing. So have your questions ready there. Also, if you guys want to participate in the drawing, make sure you click on that link, name, email, and you'll be eligible. And Cesar, I'll go ahead and ask you the question. I know you're on a big delay down there, but how many people have already done that? We've got 64 people on the chat. So let's see how many people have actually entered themselves into the drawing. The next announcement I wanted to make is I've been doing virtual classes, and that's kind of the reason why we're going to be doing the voicing topic here in today's Shop Talk, is because I just got done teaching a virtual voicing class, and I had 10 students, and some of their projects, and let me just go ahead and show that back over here, some of their projects are over here. Once they got done, they shipped me these, and we're going to discuss some of these today. So I put a camera on this table over there. Maybe I'll bring them over here. But I've been doing virtual classes, and I got comments from people saying, "Hey, that's even better than being in person with you." And so that was quite a compliment. Got
34 participants.
34. All right, good. So we've got cameras all over the place, and it really makes it possible to do a virtual class. So my next virtual class coming up is the French polish class, and I taught a virtual French polish class all the way back in 2007, years ago, through the college when I was still teaching there. And I had guys all over the world, Hawaii, France, take this course. And so I know it's possible to teach it remotely like this or virtually, and it's a great course. If you're interested in, I have 2 spots left, if you're interested in participating in that course. So contact me via my email or website or whatever, and you can go ahead and enroll in that course. It's coming up June 5th. There'll be 3 sessions, June 5th, June 12th, and June 19th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I have had some people in Europe sign up for this course, and they're saying, hey, you know, this is going to be late at night for us, so we may alter that time if we need to accommodate the folks in Europe. Have one person in England and one person in Italy that wants to take the course. So, virtual class. Another question, Adriana?
No, just Faziz Tahi from Pakistan is there again, 3 a.m.
Oh my God, all the way from Pakistan. That's true dedication right there. Thank you for tuning in. That reminds me of a story. I had a guy one time here in Boulder, which is about an hour away, wanted to take one of my in-house classes. And he called me up, we scheduled the time and stuff, and he called me the next day and said, I need to cancel. And I said, well, why do you need to cancel? He says, well, I just figured out where you live. And it's going to take me a whole hour to get to your house. And he said, you know, maybe with traffic, take me an hour and 15. And I said, sir, I think you'd be happier studying with somebody else. I refunded his money and we parted ways, because I have been all over the world to learn what I've learned and, you know, be able to teach it to others. So Pakistan, that's true dedication. Thank you very much for signing in here. All right. I guess we can go ahead and get started. If I can figure out how to do this here, I got to get my chat box back up. There we go. There's the chat box. All right, and then everything good? Sound?
Yeah, there's one person, Rick Clark. He said he heard the song, then no sound when you go live. So I don't know if he's still having the problem.
I don't know.
If that's on his side, right?
Yeah, it's on his end. It's on his end. Everything else sounds good. All right, so let's start talking about voicing. You guys have your questions ready. I'm going to just kind of give a general overview of what we just went over in my my virtual voicing class, and that was also a 3-session class. We did that through the month of March and April, and you know, voicing is an interesting thing. I don't like that term, voicing, because you're really not voicing anything. I was taught that when you choose the materials for your instrument and you choose the body size and shape, that you just voiced your instrument. Yeah. An extreme example of that is a banjo is never going to sound like a dreadnought guitar. You have different materials, different body size, shape, and design, so it's never going to sound the same. A classical guitar is never going to sound like a dread. Dread's not going to sound like an OM. So I don't really like that word voicing. The word voicing, which most people use, to me just means you're making your instrument more or less responsive. So when you choose your materials, you choose your body size and shape, you've got a predetermined voice, whether it's going to be a walnut back and sides with a cedar top or a Brazilian rosewood back and sides with a Sitka top. They've got different voices. Within that predetermined voice, then you have a window of opportunity to make it more or less responsive, depending on how well you work the instrument and the materials. Hopefully you'll make it more responsive instead of less responsive. I see a question just popped up there at the end.
Yes.
How much does finish and the bridge change the top resonance? A lot. Quite a lot, actually. We're going to talk here in a minute about the 3 ways, what I call the 3 ways to affect stiffness and looseness. Now, I've already let the cat out of the bag with those 2 words, stiffness and looseness. Adrian, you got a question there?
Yes, Albert Shu. Any news on Fabro doing a cello class?
Okay, that question comes because of the violin course that I recently did with Lucas Fabro. And at this time, we have no plans to do a cello course. We did an online violin course. I know he's working on a cello now and he's documenting the process. So maybe we can talk him into doing an online cello course with all the footage. But we have not talked about that just yet. All right, so back to, I just let the cat out of the bag. My whole building philosophy. At the end, if something pops up there in the chat, yeah, let me know, because I'm just looking at the camera here. My whole building philosophy is based around 2 words, stiffness and looseness. Class dismissed. That's all you need to know. Stiffness and looseness. For example, in my classes, I always give the analogy of a drum head. If you have a drum head and you want a higher pitch, what do you have to do to that skin of the drum head? Well, you have to tighten it. And if you want a lower pitch, what do you have to do to the skin? You have to loosen it. So let's take that analogy and put it into guitar building. For example, a steel string guitar is a very tight drum, for lack of a better word. It's got steel strings. It's usually built a lot stiffer, a lot more mass in there, a lot more timbers and stuff. And so you get screaming trebles. That skin is very tight on that drum head. So you're going to get a lot of treble, you're going to get no bass. So your mission as a luthier is to figure out some way to get some bass. And I just told you the secret. And right now we're just beating a dead horse. The secret is loosen the drum head. So you got to figure out some way to loosen that drum head. A classical guitar is the exact opposite. Nature of the instrument, nylon strings, less tension, built very lightly. You're going to get a lot of bass. You're not going to get any treble. So for that instrument, you have to figure out some way to tighten that skin or the drum head and get the treble. And that's a lifelong pursuit sometimes. But basically, that's my whole building philosophy. And we spent 3 classes hashing that over and over here recently in my virtual course. So did you have a question?
Yes. Fazis is request a question like to make a Ukulele, 6-string ukulele. Any update about that?
No, I have no plans at this time, unfortunately, to do a 6-string ukulele. I know there are some plans out there on the internet, and people do it, but at this time, I don't have any plans to do that. I can add it to my very long list of things to do. I have a very long list of things that I want to develop and create, and in between that list, I have honeydew things that have to be done, like, hey, cut the grass, hey, take the trash out. So it's not on my radar right now. Carlo, how you doing from Oak Park, Illinois? Good to see you on here on the chat. So I've given you basically my whole building philosophy over the last 25 years I've tried to develop is stiffness and looseness. So if you build, let's use the steel string guitar as an example. If you build a guitar and you have screaming trebles but no bass, on the next one, guess what you have to do? You have to loosen it up. If you have a lot of bass, but they're kind of muddy and they're kind of wimpy, and the mid-range is not kind of there, the harmonics are muddy, not a lot of definition, then you probably loosened it up too much. Now, also in my classes, I give the analogy of an equalizer. Remember those old EQ machines we used to call them, or equalizers? You got a big board and you got all these levers on them. Well, basically, here's what's happening with a steel string guitar. Your treble's maxed out, your bass is down here. And you can't just raise the knobs on the bass without affecting the treble. If you do this, it affects the other side on a guitar, obviously not on the EQ machine. So fortunately, in my opinion, the steel string guitar has an abundance of treble. So we can sacrifice a bit of that and increase the bass until we get something that's kind of uniform. Now, if you increase it too much, let's say you go way up here, then you start losing your mid-range and your treble, and your basses become muddy as well. So don't loosen it up too much. Classical guitar, complete opposite. You've got to find some way to stiffen that top to get your trebles to come out. Now, the classical guitar is a little different animal. You're working with about half as much energy and tension in that top. And if you stiffen it up too much, then you don't have the energy to drive the strings. So that can be a lifelong pursuit, just trying to hammer that out and figure that out. Any questions there, Adriana?
No, just a comment from HR Guitars. The list of things to do and to build is endless. Let's say it.
That's true. Very, very true. Hello from Wisconsin. Welcome aboard, Johannes. Is it a good idea to drill holes in the bass and treble bar to make it lighter? I've seen people do it, but I'm not sure about the effect it would give. Cheers from Sweden. All the way from Sweden, man. We're people all over the world. Drilling holes in the which bars? Let's see, the bass and treble bar. So I assume you're talking the X brace. Some people do the upper and lower transverse brace. Some people do the tone bars. People drill holes, and if you're not familiar with those terminology, I'll pull some tops out here in a minute. People like to drill holes on it. So basically, what they're doing. Don't complicate this. Don't get analysis paralysis. Basically, you got a drum head. Loosen, you get more bass. Stiffen, you get more treble, but you still got to drive the top. So based on what I've just given you just in the last few minutes, you know what that person's trying to do. They're trying to lighten that top up, loosen it up a little bit. That's what they're trying to do. The less mass you have to get in movement, the more sound you can get out of the instrument. All right. From Pakistan, sir, I also made my own acoustic guitar bridge clamp that you show recently. I made my own wooden. Love from Pakistan. Oh, that's great. Oh man, the word's getting out there. That's cool. San Juan Bautista, California is represented. Stephen, welcome aboard. All right, so I'm just going to go over some of the highlights that we went over in my virtual voicing class here recently. And I've already talked about stiffness and looseness. Now there's three ways to control that. Basically three ways. One is the thickness of the plate.
Oh, Jonas just correct, no, on classical guitars.
Ah, classical guitars. Yeah, people do it all the time. Basically, all you're doing is just trying to loosen it up and take some of the mass off. I mean, everything's on the table. Nothing's off the table. Even composite materials, whatever you want to do is valid in my opinion. I'm more of a traditional builder. For my classical guitars, it's basically a 7-fan Torres fan bracing. And on my steel string guitars, I basically do an X brace. And I don't think in my lifetime I can exhaust the possibilities of working with those two systems. But if you want to go into composites and all that kind of stuff, knock yourself out. So there's basically three ways to control stiffness and looseness. One is the thickness of the plate. And in my virtual voicing class, we talked about that. I use a method called the flop test to determine how thick to leave that plate. And we also talk about the cube rule. If you're an engineer, structural engineer, you know about the cube rule. But the flop test is a very interesting thing, and it's very accurate. Didn't you have a question?
Yes, David.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason to ever pour fill a spruce top? I did it by mistake on my first fill.
No, there's not. The only reason you pour fill is if it has pores. And usually your spruces and your cedars don't have, not usually, they don't. They don't have pores. So there's no reason to pour fill. With that said, though, I have been known to color the top. And I've used a pour fill to do that, like an epoxy or something, to give it some type of amber color if you're using a water-based finish. Now, some of your water-based finishes these days already come with an amber tint in them. But back in the day when I was experimenting a lot with water-based finishes, you had to have some way to color that top, and I was using epoxy at that time.
About classical guitars, the bracing shape and thickness of the braces are more important of the thickness of the soundboard?
Okay, we're getting into that here in just a second. Let me get to the 3 ways to control stiffness and looseness. Now remember, my whole building philosophy is based around stiffness and looseness. So 3 ways to control it. Thickness of the plate. And in the steel string virtual class, I teach the flop test, which is, you thickness and you flop it. You thickness and you flop it, and it becomes more musical. It has kind of a sheet metal type sound to it. And it's a very accurate way of doing it. Now, I've studied Trevor Gore. Trevor Gore is a good friend of mine, and he has an algorithm and formulas that he can put his tops through to determine the optimum thickness for that top. And I remember one time, after all the students had left one of the classes we were giving together, he handed me a cedar top, and he said, "Robbie, how thick do you want this top to be?" And I grabbed it, and I flopped it, and tapped it, and licked it, and all that kind of stuff. And I said, "Hey, 2.6 millimeters." Well, he put it through all his formulas, and guess what it came out to? 2.6 millimeters. So maybe I was lucky, I don't know. But over the years, I've been able to really dial in that feeling. By the way, there's 2 camps for voicing. There's an analytical camp, and there's a tactile camp. The analytical camp is the engineers, the computer guys. They like the formulas and numbers and charts and graphs. I'm more in the tactile camp. And I like to feel, and you'd be amazed at what you can do with the human body, that computer between your ears and the touch. For example, if you go to grab a coffee filter, you know if you've got 1 or 2 in there. And those things are thousandths of an inch. So you can really dial it in just with your fingers. So stiffness and looseness, thickness of the plate, I use the flop test. If you want to use formulas, that's fine. Are there another question?
I think it's all related to, there's a few questions on top. You said to wait for you're going to get to
Yes, I'm going to get to that.
And I think the other one is not bracing, all related to that topic.
Okay, so the first way to control stiffness and looseness is the thickness of the plate. The second way to control stiffness and looseness is the bracing pattern. The specs, size, shape, let me back up. It's not necessarily shape, that's coming into 3. So the size, the specs, how wide, how tall, and then where you place them on the top. Because there's a lot of different bracing patterns out there. I happen to use the X brace for the steel string, and I use the fan brace for the classical. But there's a lot of different things that work out there, and they all work. So you need to determine how to work with it. So the bracing specs and where you place them, that's number 2, how you control stiffness and looseness. The third way to control stiffness and looseness is what you do with those braces after they've been glued to the soundboard. Because you have a golden opportunity to come in and start shaving stuff. And some people call that scalloping. I just call it shaping. But you're missing a golden opportunity if you don't come in and do some refinement. Now, in my virtual voicing class, I used an analogy of a pendulum. And I call this the stiffness pendulum. When you get your materials, and I usually get my materials from LMI or some other reputable source, and it comes in 2 halves, and it's usually thick. And you tap on it or flex it, and it's pretty stiff. So that stiffness pendulum is way over here on the stiffness side. And then you join the 2 halves. It got bigger, and it's a little floppier, so the pendulum starts to move. Then you start thicknessing that top, or that plate as I call it, and it goes way over here, especially on the classical guitars. Boy, those things, they're like a wet noodle by the time you get done with them before you brace them. So the stiffness pendulum started way over here and went way over here. Then we throw a bunch of lumber at it. Boom, stiffness pendulum goes back over to the stiff side. Then the third way to control stiffness and looseness is start shaving braces, and then you dial in that optimum amount of stiffness and looseness that you're looking for in your tone, in your instruments. And everybody's is a little different. Yes, Adriana, question.
I don't know if you covered this one or not. Have you ever weighed your bracing before gluing it to the top as a way of keeping track of your work and having a guide of sorts?
That's a good question. So the question is, do I ever weigh my materials, my bracing, before I glue it to the top? No, I never have. Now, I've built hundreds and hundreds of guitars over the years, and I can pick up two pieces of wood, and I feel, okay, this one's lighter, this one's stiffer. And you can too. I said lighter and stiffer. I didn't mean to say lighter and stiffer. Lighter and heavier, because sometimes one is stiffer and one is looser. But mass is very important. How heavy that thing is, and you can figure that out. I mean, just a few grams, you can tell the difference. In fact, in one of my when I used to give my in-house voicing classes, I have two tops, and I talk about how old they are. And so I give these two tops. They're exactly the same thickness, exactly the same species, and same shape and everything. And I hand these to the students. I said, tell me which one is older. And every student is able to pick out which one's older. Now, why did I say older? Well, because that one's usually lighter. And so when we weigh it, it's just a few grams. I mean, it's very, very close to the other one, but you can pick that out and you can tell. So no, I don't weigh my materials. I just am able to tell which one's lighter. If you want to do that, weigh it, flex it, stress test it, that's fine. I'm not opposed to any of that. But I personally don't. There was a question here about, I was talking about the plate, and somebody says, is that the soundboard? Yes, that's the soundboard. But I also use that term, plate, for the back as well. Okay.
And then Alfred Shu, have you learned anything new or changed your technique or tips from teaching the voice live online?
Yes. I've changed my methods. My online voicing course, which I'm going to give away here in a few minutes. By the way, click on that link, put in your name and email address if you want to be eligible. If you want to be eligible, make sure you click on that. But I've changed some of my methods. Not a lot, but a little. And I'll pull out some of the student tops here that we just did in my virtual class, and you'll be able to see some of the things I'm doing. But the concept is all the same. Stiffness and looseness. It's just how you get there. And a lot of things work. Ladder bracing, X bracing, fan bracing, it all works, and all of the same principles apply. Stiffness and looseness. Okay, and you got another question there?
Can you demonstrate the flop test?
I don't have a top ready to do the flop test here, but basically what you do is you just take a top and you pop it like that. And what I want to hear is a sheet metal sound.
I don't know if you got this one.
It's in the online course. That's one of the things in the online course.
What is it better, a very thin top with stronger bracing or a medium thickness top with lighter thin?
That's a very good question. So let me see if I can find that. I want to read that here for everybody.
Okay.
What is better, a very thin top with stronger bracing or a medium thickness top with lighter, thinner bracing? Yes. Let me give you an example to illustrate that. When I first started building steel string guitars about 20 years ago, I had been building classical guitars for a number of years. And so I approached the steel string guitar from my experience of the classical guitar. In other words, very thin. Those things were thin. Some of my tops were 2.2, 2.1 millimeters. Sometimes I graduate them around the edge, and they were thin. I mean, I don't know of anybody doing that thin on a steel string guitar top. You put the strings on and those guitars instantly came to life. They were very alive, very responsive, very rhythmic. They did not have a lot of sustain, and they did not have a lot of mid-range. Now, I call those guitars the boom chuck guitars because the guys that were sitting behind the band or behind the singer doing the accompaniment, the boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chuck, they loved them because they didn't sustain long enough for that next note to get in the way, or the previous note to get in the way of the next note. And so I thought, well, I want to get a little bit more mid-range because the fingerstyle guys, they like mid-range. And one day I'm sitting in Kent Everett's shop in Atlanta, Georgia. Kent's a good friend of mine. We've worked on some videos together. And I said, Kent, I would like to have some of that woodsy, mid-rangey type sound. I call it the woodsy sound. And he just looked straight at me and said, Robbie, if you want a woodsy sound, you got to leave wood in your top. I thought, that's obvious. So I started coming back from the cliff a little bit, and I started leaving my tops a little thicker. My tops are still a little thinner than most steel string guitars, especially factory guitars, I'm usually in the 2.4 to 2.6, 2.7-ish range, depending on the species of wood and what I'm going for. And once I did that, I started getting the woodsy, mid-rangey sound that I wanted. I started getting the sustain, started getting the harmonics. So how you get that depends on what you do. So there's 3 ways for stiffness and looseness: thickness of the top, bracing pattern, size, shape, where you place it, and then what you do with it. And then you have to pull those 3 levers and find out what works for you. Okay? Can you demonstrate the flop test? No, I can't. I don't have anything ready. Sir, have you ever manufactured fretless acoustic guitars? No, I haven't, and I have no desire to. Is master grading top wood like Adirondack a myth? I've seen some pretty good Adirondack. In fact, I had a student in here just a week or 2 ago that used Adirondack Spruce, probably the best piece I've ever seen. It was fantastic. I mean, it was a beautiful piece of Adirondack. Normally, your Adirondack has some very wide spacing, it's a little off the quarter, has some knots you have to work around, and that's probably just due to our supply and demand issue. Speaking of tone wood, in the virtual class, I teach the students how to select and grade their tone wood. And when I would teach this class in-house, I would have the students show up with at least 2 or 3 tops. I would teach them how I select and grade my materials, and then they would select one of their tops to work on in the class. And then we'd go through the thicknessing process, the bracing process, and the voicing process. In other words, those 3 ways to control stiffness and looseness. The dirty little secret out on the market in the tone wood business is that all tops are graded visually, not tonally. So, with that said, sometimes you have some real duds in the master grade pile and you have some real gems in the student grade pile. So recently, some friends of mine, and I'll mention their names here, Michael Baskin. Most people are aware of Michael Baskin. We've done some online courses together. Chris Jenkins at Lame Horse Guitars down in Texas, and Rich up in Wyoming. And Rich, forgive me, I always pronounce your name wrong. I believe it's spelled Jaouen, and I don't know how to pronounce it. But these 3 individuals have gotten together and developed some algorithms for grading tone wood analytically and tonally rather than just visually. And they have shared that information with a friend of mine in Italy named Simone. And Simone has worked together with a gentleman named Andrea, and they have a PhD. And they have put together some algorithms. Let's see, they measure the density and stiffness, in other words, the Young's modulus, the sound radiation coefficient on a bunch of alpine spruce or Italian spruce. And I recently ordered a dozen tops from them, and I was just floored, not only visually, it was just great wood, but at all the testing that they did on it. They sent me pictures and all the data, and I was able to choose which one I wanted. And it was really interesting. Now, Chris Jenkins down at Lame Horse Guitars in Texas is representing them here in the United States. So if you need a top or 2 and you need it fairly quick, then you can contact Chris Jenkins at Lame Horse Guitars. He'll send you a list of pictures and all the algorithms and numbers, and you can choose what you want. If you need 6, 7, 8 tops or more, contact Simone in Italy. His email address is wood, the letter N, tones.lab@gmail.com. And several of my students have ordered wood directly from him and have been floored at what this wood is doing. What he'll do is he'll go into Revolta Tone Woods there in Italy. He'll choose a couple hundred tops. He'll put them through all the testing and algorithms, and he'll choose the top performers, let's say. And I haven't had time to work with one of those pieces of wood yet, but I know Chris Jenkins has, and perhaps Michael Baskin, and the results are very, very promising. So with that said, final reminder that we have a drawing later today. Be sure to leave your entry to participate by following the link pinned at the top of the chat box. That's right. Okay. What about large grain versus tight grain, either in cedar and spruce? What is the best way to adjust before the finishing process? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Some of the things, and we're starting to run out of time here. I try and keep these things to an hour. I just want to, give you a bit of information, and then you can take it and go down the rabbit hole if you want to. Some of the things I mentioned in my virtual voicing class is how to select the top. In no particular order, here's the criteria that I use. Stiffness, not stiffness and looseness, that's something else. Thickness of the plate, very important. No, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Wrong notes, sorry folks. There we go. GPI, tightness of grain, and that's what you're talking about there. Now, traditionally, GPI or tightness of grain, people think tighter is stiffer. Not necessarily the case. And these days, you'll see wider spacing on guitars in tone wood. Partly that's due because people have figured out that sometimes it controls stiffness, sometimes it doesn't. And also, our wood sources are not what they used to be. Straight grain, I like to see straight grain, no detour of the grain. Long and short fibers. Long fibers generally are an example of stiffer wood. Color. I don't mind a little color in my wood, and depending on the species of wood you're using, you kind of have to use color. But know your market. Some clients like it, some clients don't. Same with bear claw or hazelfitch, as it's called in German. Some people love it, some people hate it. There's generally no middle of the road. Johnny's asking about our drawing. Yes, I'm giving away one of my online voicing courses. You got to click on the link up there, put in your name and your email address, and we're getting ready to close that out here in a few minutes. Run out, that's very important. That's probably at the top of the list, that and quarter sawn. I like to have quarter sawn wood. Flexing across the grain, sound of the wood, not only tapping it, but rubbing it. If stiffer the wood, you hear a different sound. What I listen for when I'm tapping is musicality, harmonic complexity, and of course that changes with the size and stiffness of the piece. Starting to get a little dry here. Are there any questions while I take a sip of water here?
Yes. Can you change the voicing on a completed instrument?
Yes, you can. Is the finish on it yet? If the finish is on it, well, you maybe refinish the instrument. Just that alone will change the voice. Take all that urethane and polyester or whatever the factory's put on, take that off. That alone will change the voice. If you want to get inside and shape some braces and stuff, you can. I usually try not to do that though.
Would there ever be a reason for mixing species of wood cedar top with spruce bracing?
Good question. Is there a reason for mixing cedar top with spruce bracing or spruce bracing with cedar? I generally use spruce bracing on all my guitars, even on my cedar tops, because it's stiffer. I find the cedar is not stiff enough for my taste. So I usually use that on everything. That brings up another question. Some people put spruce on one side and cedar on the other side. I think of the top as one unit. Anything you do to that top to make it bassier, well, guess what? You sacrifice the treble. Anything you do to that top to make it more trebly, you've sacrificed the bass or affected the bass. It's one unit. A lot of times your beginning students will think, okay, if I take this brace and turn it 2 degrees this way, I've increased the bass, or forget all that stuff. It's one unit, and it all comes down to stiffness and looseness. Think of the drum head. I've just saved you guys years of experimenting just with that statement right there. It's stiffness and looseness. Question, Adriana?
Why some soundboard tone woods are used in acoustic fields but not classical, like mahogany or koa?
Very good question. Why are some woods used in acoustic builds but not in classical? Mahogany and koa. There's not enough energy in a cedar top or in a classical guitar to drive those more dense tops, in my opinion. Now, you will see those guitars, mahogany and koa, on steel string guitars, and generally they have a pickup in them. Well, there's a reason why they have a pickup in them. You got to get some sound out of them. Now, with that said, though, I've seen all Spanish cedar guitars, back, sides, top, neck, everything, and they sound pretty decent. Now, Spanish cedar is a little different than mahogany and koa. Okay.
Another one question.
Okay.
He asked it again. More. When it's said that a spruce top open up over time, what is exactly meant by that?
Okay.
How wide does the sound improve over time?
Okay, so that's a very good question. You hear about guitars opening up over time. Generally, your spruces do that. Cedar, what you hear is what you get when the strings go on. However, they do kind of open up or warm up over time. But the break-in period, let's say, is a lot less for cedar than it is for spruce. That's the general consensus. Although, remember that story I told about the boom chuck guitars? Those guitars were, you put the strings on, what you heard is what you got. However, I found that they started to crap out after a few years. There was no place for them to go. So if you go right up to that cliff, there's no place for the instrument to go and develop over time. It's better if it has some room to go. And so I find that the spruces do that a lot better. Okay. Is it important for the sides to be quarter sawn? I don't think so. And most of our sides in your exotic species, Brazilian rosewood, things like that, are not quarter sawn anymore. It's possible to use a flat sawn or riff sawn back and sides. Will you scallop the bass side braces more than the treble side to get the bass response, or is it more general scalloping? Now, remember what I just said. It's a drum head. There's no left and right side of the drum head. There's no left and right side of the top. If you scallop more of the bass on the bass side, well, guess what? You just affected the treble side as well. It's one unit, in my opinion. Now, I'm probably going to get a bunch of emails after this live stream. You're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about. That's okay. I've built hundreds of guitars, and I have good experience in that area. It's one unit. Okay. Well, Adriana, more.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to talk about those tops I got sitting over there.
Go ahead.
So what's the question here? Let's see. I'm closing the form soon. Last 3 minutes to write your entry in. So if you guys want to be eligible for the drawing, giving away one of my online courses, go ahead and click on that link. Put in your email address and your name. Will you ever make a manouche one? I don't know what a manouche one is. Koa ukes are common. Does size make it suitable for koa and mahogany? Maybe. Yeah.
Why not experiment on a top that varies the thickness in some areas of the top like a violin? Thanks for that master grading answer.
Okay. Varying the tops, or varying the thicknesses of the top. Yeah, if you want to, knock yourself out. On my classical guitars, I do that. I graduate the top and make it thinner around the edges. Now, remember I talked about 3 ways to control stiffness and looseness. Thickness of the plate, bracing pattern, size, shape, where you place it. Third one, what you do with it after it's glued on there. Well, there are kind of a couple of other ways. The bridge, that's very important when we take all this time, shaving and tapping and listening, and then we glue a brick to the outside. Well, obviously that's going to do something. Also, the radius of the top. The tighter the radius, stiffer it's going to be, more energy to drive it. Lower the radius, easier it is to drive it, in my opinion. And if you want to graduate the outside, sometimes on a steel string, I'll run the palm sander a little more aggressively around the outside edges if I'm not getting the movement when I press my thumb on it, or the tap that I want after the box is closed. And that's very interesting. There's two concepts there. What you get before you glue the top on and what you get after you glue the top on are 2 different things. And I tell my students in my voicing class, if you like the results when the strings go on, then you got to remember it at that point, the sound when you're tapping and shaving and stuff before it goes on the instrument, because things completely change. Is the type of glue affect the sound on the top? And what is the best glue to use for this operation? I get that question a lot. People say high glue is the best. Now, if I hand somebody a guitar and say, hey, play this instrument, they, oh man, this is great, best instrument I've ever played. The next question I say is, what kind of glue did I use? Nobody can tell me. So I don't think it matters. Now, there may be, some reasoning behind hide glue, but that's not the only thing. You need several things, all of this stars to align, a lot of things to go right to get the perfect instrument. I've heard a lot of bad sounding guitars with hide glue, a lot of great sounding guitars with just regular old Titebond. Question?
So Larry said that manouche is a gypsy jazz guitar.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I have no plans to do that. I've had people ask me to do an online course on it. I'm not a gypsy jazz guitar maker, so I would need to find somebody to do that with me. But perhaps one day it goes on the very long list of things to do. Okay, hey Rob, as we think about stiffness versus looseness, what are your thoughts to matching the species of the top to the same species for the bracing? I just answered that question recently. On my steel string guitars, I use Sitka bracing. Whether I'm using Engelmann, Sitka, tops, it doesn't matter. Cedar. I like Spruce now, and I like Engelmann Spruce. For some reason. I've used Euro Spruce, I've used cedar tops. First 20, 30 guitars, classical guitars I made were cedar tops. I really like the cedar sound, but I think I'm more partial to Spruce now. For the steel string guitar, I use mostly Sitka. However, I really like Engelmann, especially on an OM type guitar. Great. All right, I want to pull some of the tops I've got sitting there on the other bench and just quickly talk about some of the things and you might be able to learn something just by me giving you some information. These tops were sent to me by participants or students from the virtual voicing class. And once we got all done, I gave them the option, ship me your top. I had some people from out of the country couldn't do that, obviously, but some of the people in country shipped me their tops, and I gave them a final analysis, and I made a little video for them on YouTube for the students. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab some of these tops and bring them over here. I'm going to go over to camera 4. I might be able to do it, Adriana. The first thing that I noticed about this particular student, this one's from Virginia, it was the packaging. Oh my God. I mean, it came with a hardboard and some blocks of wood here in the corner and styrofoam padding to keep the top in here. It was amazing. Just the packaging alone is like, wow. So he got an A for effort just from that. So I'm going to bring this top over. Here we are back here. And just by looking at this top, you're probably going to see some of the different things I do in my bracing. I'm going to put camera number 2 on down here. That way maybe they can see it a little better. So I use basically just a typical Martin X brace, and you'll notice that the backs of the X brace here do not go all the way to the kerfing. That's something I've started doing in the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm very happy with the results. You'll also notice that they are very low profile. I mean, these things are extremely low profile. You'll also notice that there's no scalloping going on. It's just basically a boat ramp. And that's something that I've started doing here in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm very pleased with the results. Very low profile. The thing that impressed me about this top, and all of the students sent me some great tops. I was very impressed with their work. It was the cleanliness of the work, very well done. The selection of the wood was very well done. But this particular top, when I pulled it out of that beautiful packaging there, I noticed something that was very alarming. And I'm going to try and hold it back up to camera number 1 here, and you can see what's going on. It is concave. It's this way. Well, it should be going this way. And I don't know if the camera is distorting this or not. It's come back a little bit because it was very pronounced when I pulled it out of the packaging. Now, this was made on the East Coast where it's very humid, and I'm in Colorado where it's very dry. However, my shop, I got a big humidifier over here that's turned off right now. If not, I'd get a blast of fog. I keep my shop between 40 and 50% all the time. And when I pulled this thing out, it was very concave. Starting to go back a little bit now. I was very impressed with the rosette on this particular top. Very beautiful. Let me see if I can hold it up a little closer to the camera there. Very nicely done. This particular top has a little color in it. Like I said, I don't particularly mind color. And a lot of these tops in the virtual voicing class, some of them were just samples. They don't have rosettes. They're just something they're going to hang on the wall and use it for future reference. But I was very impressed with this top. This student did a very good job. Pay attention to humidity as you build. I like to join the top, thickness the top, brace the top, voice the top, and close the box at the same humidities. Now in my classes, we do that all within about a day, day and a half. So if you string this out over 6 months, the seasons are changing, you could have something like this. This particular top came in at 23.4 grams. Just going to throw you some numbers for you folks that like numbers. And it is between 2.5 and 2.6 millimeters thick. As I grab another one, if you want to feed me a question.
Do you wobble the top before or after the braces are on?
I do it the question is, do you wobble the top before or after the braces? Now, he's referring to the flop test. And the flop test I do before the braces are on, because it won't flop. After the braces are on, you cut it out. So it has to be rectangular, no braces, sound hole still intact. You can have your rosette installed. Here's a couple of students that came, or a couple of tops that came from a student in Virginia. And this, once again, I was very impressed with the rosettes. Look how pretty that rosette is. Isn't that nice? They did a very good job. Now, the tops, they haven't been sanded and beveled here yet, so they look like they've been stamped out, in a factory, cookie cutter kind of thing. This is an Adirondack top, and it's got very wide spacing out here. It's a little off the quarter. This one's pretty floppy, and that's one of the things that when this one came in, I just picked it up and thought, whoa, this is floppy. And she knew that. This person knew that, and then braced accordingly. Remember, there's 3 ways to control stiffness and looseness. So if it's a little floppier, then you pull those levers and control it that way. Doesn't mean that you can't have to reject the top. And obviously this person didn't. One of the things I really liked about this was the rosewood around the sound hole and the cap across the X brace. I thought that was kind of cool. These little tone bars here, this person took those very low profile. We spoke on the phone after I got the top, and the person said, hey, you might want to warn the students. I took the peaks of the tone bars about the same height as this X brace, which is coming down to nothing down here. And perhaps I got a little thin. And we thought that perhaps this top would be one of those muddy type tops. The lower end is probably pretty good, but not well defined. Other than that, fantastic. This person sent me two. And this top, once again, I mean, look at the rosette on this. Isn't that pretty? Very fantastic job. This one is Sitka Spruce. Oh, let me get back to the Adirondack here. I'll give you a little information on the Adirondack. This one was 22.6 grams, and it came in at 2.65 millimeters thick. So back to the Sitka one, I'll go ahead and give you the numbers on that one. This one is 24.4 grams, came at 2.5 and 2.6, somewhere in that area. This one, the person used a maple bridge patch. Not opposed to maple bridge patch. I particularly choose rosewood. It looks a little beefy, in my opinion. I think probably could have cut it back a little bit and got rid of some mass there. Sitka Spruce has a little bit more color in it. It's got some bear claw. I really like the bear claw. But one of the things that I did not like about this top, and once again, these tops were all just kind of samples for our class, is I noticed a big, heavy glue line down there. And, you know, if a person's going to pay you to make a high-end custom guitar, then you probably ought to do a little bit better job on joining that so you don't have quite such a heavy glue line. All right, now I got one more top over there I want to pull out, but I'm going to call my developer down in Brazil. I'm going to give him a heads up because there's quite a long delay between here and there. Cesar, I'm going to give you a call here in just a few minutes, and we're going to go ahead and do the drawing. So let me go grab one more top from over there.
One more question?
Yeah, go ahead and give me another question.
Do you ever recommend cedar top with spruce bracing or the opposite?
Have I not already addressed this?
Oh, maybe you did.
So,
Wasn't it?
what was the question again?
Do you ever recommend cedar top with spruce bracing or the opposite?
I use spruce bracing on my cedar tops. I do not do the opposite. I don't think cedar is strong enough, stiff enough. If you want to use some carbon fiber in there, okay, then probably cedar is a good choice. And you stiffen it up with carbon fiber, and you get rid of some mass. So, try that. Let's see. When you first experimented bracing, did you close the box entirely? No, I always voice it and experiment with it before I close the box. Once you close the box, and you're kind of running out of ways to control stiffness and looseness, right? Okay, this particular top came from a student, and you'll notice there's no rosette in there, which is fine. I gave the students the option of putting in a rosette or not. And this person decided not to put a rosette in. They're going to use this on the shop wall for samples, or as a sample of what they're listening for down the road. A lot of color in the top there. This particular top, I believe, is Lutz, if I remember correctly. I think it's Lutz. It might be Sitka. But look at all the color in there and striping and stuff, which is fine. Nice glue line. You can't see it. It's very good. I'm going to read you some numbers on this one, and you'll learn something really quick. This one came in at 27.2 grams, so quite a bit heavier than the previous ones. Also, the thicknesses are anywhere from 2.6 to 3.2 millimeters. Now, the reason why such a wide variance in thicknesses there is that the student did it by hand. Now, that's no excuse. That's still a pretty wide variables there. But 3.2, the reason why I left it 3.2 is that it was pretty floppy. So he's trying to compensate on those three ways to control stiffness and looseness. This person used walnut for the bridge patch, and he inlaid this cap across the X joint, lap joint there. Inlaid it in there. I've never seen that done. I thought it was kind of cool. But very clean work. All of these tops that the people sent me will make great instruments. And the tap tone on them is wonderful. I'm going to try and do it here on camera, but you probably won't be able to hear it because of the filters on the microphone. But the way I teach my students is just hold it up to the ear like this and just tap it. Now, I have no way of knowing until later when I listen to this if this is even coming out. The peak meter on my microphone says it is, but anyway. So that's basically what we covered in my virtual voicing class. What I'm listening for is something that sounds like a gong, and that's as far as I'll go with that. If you want to learn more about that, then either get my online course or sign up for my next virtual voicing class next year. I do it once a year. Also, before we quit here, virtual voicing class or virtual French polish class coming up June 5th, June 12th, June 19th, 6 p.m. Mountain Time unless we change the time. I got 2 spots left. If you're interested, give me a call. Most of you have seen all of my pictures that I put out with all my students of the beautiful French polishes we do. By the way, in my classes, there's 2 of us working on the instrument, obviously, me and the student. But we are able to completely French polish the entire guitar, top, back, sides, neck, everything, in 6 to 8 hours. And they come out beautiful works of art. So if you want to learn that method, contact me. I'll be doing that.
Can we call Cesar?
Yes, I'm going to give Cesar a call. Any more quick questions here? Where do you think the prime real estate begins for a top? At the bridge, at the sound hole. Prime real estate, that's a term I use in my classes. Anything below the sound hole is prime real estate. That's your beachfront property. Everything above the sound hole, that's your swampland. You can do whatever you want up there. But the beachfront property is where you want to pay attention. Okay, I need to call Cesar. What time are we getting to? No, I'll call on my phone here. So I'm going to call my developer down in Brazil. This is Cesar Tessarin, and I'm going to let you guys see that this is all legit here. We're going to be doing the drawing. There he is. There he is. All right. There's Cesar. He's my web developer, Cesar Tessarin. By the way, his dad taught me how to build guitars, and I met Cesar when he was about 2 years old. And now he's quite a bit bigger. How you doing, Cesar?
Oh, good. Oh, good.
He even took a shower and combed his hair for this tonight.
Yeah.
So how many people do we have?
We have 57 participants today.
57. How many people are online right now?
93.
93. All right. So obviously some of you didn't want to enter the drawing. That's fine. He's got a little program that he's written there. It assigns a random number to all of the people, and then it electronically puts them in a hat, and he pulls a number out. So who have we got? Who's the winner today?
Let's generate.
Here we go.
Number 10.
Number 10. Who's number 10?
Is Joe O2.
Joe, O-T-O-O-L. All right, Joe. Now we got a bit of a delay going on here, so you've got to say in the chat box, "Hey, I'm here," and we'll give you a minute or two to do that. But you gotta speak up. If not, we're going to go on to the next person, and we'll give you a second or here to do that. While I'm waiting for Joe to speak up. That reminds me of a story. The last live stream we were doing, I called Cesar on here, and we did the thing, and I finished the chat, and then we turned everything off. Miss Brazil's here, and we started talking. Well, how do you think it went? Blah blah blah. And I hear somebody in the background. What the heck? Cesar was still on the line. I forgot to hang up.
Oh, Joe is there. Acoustic Coyote.
All right, Joe's Acoustic Coyote. Is that who it is?
Yes.
Reed Guitars. Who's Reed Guitars? Is that Joe?
No.
How do we know who Acoustic Guitar or Acoustic Coyote is?
Hold on.
Is there anything in the email about Acoustic Coyote there?
No, unfortunately not.
So how do you know it's Acoustic Coyote?
I don't know. I just said I'm here, Robert. So I guess it just said hi.
I'm here. Reed Guitars is here. All right. So who the heck is Joe O'Toole?
Joe O2 has a number on his email. So if you can type that number on the chat, we can confirm it.
Okay. Yeah. So what's that number?
Let me show you.
Okay.
How do you spell O2? O-T-O-O.
All right. So the number 950 is a partial email address for Joe. 950. And I don't see him showing up here. So if you don't show up here, then let's see Acoustic Coyote. Okay, Acoustic Coyote is Joe, and you have the number 950 in your email address. All right, Cesar, thank you so much. Say goodbye to everybody.
No problem. Goodbye. Bye.
And I'll go ahead and hang up this time. And if I need to, I'll call you back here in a little bit. Thank you, Cesar. Bye-bye. All right. Very good. So I've given you here in about 20 minutes, over 20 years worth of voicing experience. I hope everybody has found this useful. But if you just, remember those things, stiffness, looseness, and how to control, the 3 ways to how to control stiffness and looseness, you've shaved years off the learning curve. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to go ahead and say over and out. If you want to send me an email, ask a question, you certainly can, because sometimes I can't get to everything here in the chat box. But if you want to send me an email, I'll try and get to it. Don't forget, virtual French polish class coming up June 5th, 12th, and 19th. Also, Larry Robinson's inlay course. I'm very proud of this one, so is Larry, is now available on my website. And if you buy all 3 parts, you get a significant discount over buying them separately. Thank you so much, folks. Over and out. What do you think, Adriana? Are we done?
Yes.
Okay. See ya. Now, I do have some theme music coming up here, so if you guys want to hang around for the theme music, I just got to figure out how to turn it on. Give me a minute. All right, I'm going to cut my mic. Here we go.